in this episode of Idea City.
We're very excited about this because the scalability of this technology, the high throughput that this technique offers, being able to cover 1 square meter of sheet-like, skin-like material within something like 45 minutes is really unmet by any other bioprinting technology.
So I'll spare you lengthy introductions for our next two speakers, except to say that one of them wants to make skin, and the other one wants to make leather. So let's have the skin man out here. This is Alex Guenther.
I'd like to present to you a group effort from here in town towards developing a bioprinting capability that's very new. Also explaining some of the challenges that have to do with bioprinting versus the kinds of printing that we have seen before, and then mapping this onto a problem to print with a medical problem in mind. So I'll start by saying, a lot of the things that we think about that we accommodate to our flat nature. This is a copy of Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, where he talks about distribution of goods. And the world of printing is also flat. And the world of printing is not just flat, it's also old. I'm not in the Department of Medieval Studies at the University of Toronto. I'm in the Department of Mechanical Engineering as well as Biomedical Engineering. But making substrates and then putting something onto these substrates in a sequential fashion, that's something that we've been doing for a long time, manually and then using machines. And so if we look at technology now, this is what technology looks like from an engineering perspective, right? You see I'm a little bit biased. So these are massive machines that work at very high throughput. If we confine ourselves to this idea of making a substrate first and then doing something with it. And so when you think about tissues, the idea is very similar. So we try to make a substrate first, then populate it with cells such that it assumes tissue-like properties. But clearly there are limitations to the sequential approach. And if we were able to combine these two steps and also gain some spatial control, we may be able to create more meaningful types of tissues. So what kinds of tissues am I talking about? There's abundant, large numbers that one can get interested in. On the top left, there's a piece of cardiac tissue, that makes our heart beat. Then on the top right, skin. We're going to talk a little bit about this. Blood vessels on the bottom left, and then, there's also leaves. Initially, I was very excited about leaves because we have this planar printing technology. But I couldn't find a graduate student that was equally excited about it. So two goals. One is to develop a new type of printing technology that's low cost and allows us to sort of create micro tissues composed of human cells, recapitulating some of the physiology of actual tissues. And then also being able to prove that what we do can be scaled. So it can be done in a context that's ultimately clinically relevant. And I'm working with Mark Jeschke and Sunnybrook on some of these questions, and he makes very sure that I do not forget the second part, right? Because otherwise you would consider what I'm doing as developing toys. In 3D printing, there are a number of components that are very important. It's having a supply of cells that come from a patient that need to be cultured, need to be expanded, needs to be a large number of cells, a medium in which they are kept, a matrix, a biopolymer in which they feel comfortable, that has tissue-like properties, and also supplied factors that are added to the medium that make cells behave a certain way. So for each of these fields, there's experts in town right here that do nothing else in studying these particular aspects. It's very important in order to ultimately make a difference, to get all these experts involved and to come up with a meaningful solution. So then we have a bioprinted type of a construct, and we have to culture it. Depending on the choices that we made initially, the culture period may be shorter or longer until we get something that is close to a functional piece of tissue. And so the culture period can be weeks, or it can be days, or it can be much, much shorter. So it's meaningful to spend some time at this initial point. And so we make continuous sheets. These sheets are a couple of hundred, between 100 and a few hundred microns in thickness. We can write text into these sheets if you wanted to.
Great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook.
Some of the technology that's behind what we do has evolved from ways of making computer chips. Right? All the gadgetry that we carry contains computer chips that are mass-produced at really low cost. So what we do in our research, and many others, we sort of misuse this capability to not move around electrons, but instead create small, tiny channels in also silicon or, more often, plastic types of materials with the goal of manipulating fluids. And these fluids can contain cells, and so, So we can start with essentially particles that contain some cells, or we could have fibers that are extruded, or we could have planar arrangements, and then we could think about building this complexity up to 3 dimensions. Because ultimately, if you want to make something that has a functional meaning for a human, it needs to be in 3 dimensions, it needs to have organ scales. But there's a disconnect in a sense that doing that is very, very tedious, very, very time-consuming. And so a lot of the clinical reality still is with decellularized, already existing grafts or organs. And so what we set out to do is we want to develop a platform that's compatible with different types of matrix materials, that has dynamic control and is not sequential. So it starts with creating some kind of microenvironment and then step by step by step building it up and then culturing a bit more so it becomes one entity. But in one-step process, we create what we want to have. So one step continuous, dynamic control, high throughput, and scalable to 3 dimensions. Right? It starts with 2 pots. One pot is blue, the other one is red. And these are pots of liquid biopolymers that may contain some cells as payload. And so we organize these are flowable polymers. They are organized in this dashed region in a plane. So we can at will place a little bit of red within a blue sheet. And the sheet is moving. By the way, no mechanical indifference to a lot of the printers that you have seen and will see. None of the components in this strategy are moving. The only thing that's moving is the biopolymer, right? And so it's initially we can incorporate information. We could write Toronto, right? We could write Moses, right? We could write Idea City. And then we retain this organization by cross-linking, by solidifying the polymer. And then we can just collect it as a sheet, and that process has no end. So we can make a sheet that's infinitely long. It's just if we need a little bit more material, we keep extruding. And we can roll it up, and we can do all kinds of fun things. So this is how the machine actually looks like. So the blue part on the left side is the piece of borrowed microfabrication technology from computer makers, applied to juggling fluid streams. And on the right side, there's a drum that collects the material or tissue that we're making. There's a microfabricated nozzle. You could call this a printer cartridge in printer language, right? As we make sheets at different thickness continuously. And the thickness is a useful thickness for keeping cell-populated, keeping cells in these sheets alive. This is a fabricated printer cartridge, and there's a bunch of control that we need to incorporate at different predefined points in time a secondary material. So now there's the machine, right? So generation 1 was built last summer, tested a lot, has been running really well. And in the center, so you see a liquid line that carries the biopolymer into, in the center, a small transparent polymer chip, the cartridge. And out of it comes a sheet of that then cross-linked biopolymer that's continuous and rolled up onto a drum. So instead of doing a lot of talking, I'll just show you how this actually works. So the drum is a rotating part, but that's not an inherent part of the printer. It's just a collection mechanism. And so we make continuous sheets. These sheets are a couple of hundred, between 100 and a few hundred microns in thickness. We can write text into these sheets if you wanted to. I'll show you that in a minute. And they're infinite in length, and it can be cell-populated. And they come at a very high throughput, up to 1 centimeter per second. The width of these sheets can be up to 3 centimeters. So you can make a lot of material, right? We can stack these sheets up, and we can roll them. So we can make sort of tissue duct tape. At some point, you could have duct tape to fix your blood vessels.
Get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at ideacityonline.com.
So we had developed this technology, and then we started incorporating information like, writing Toronto, and writing Toronto in binary code. That's sort of what geeks do. And then we wanted to get this protected, and we talked to commercialization people, experts at the University of Toronto, and they told me, Axel, that's not an application, right? So then I thought, okay, let's prove this is a robust technology. Let's write more text. So we wrote the first article of the first chapter of the UN Charter in binary code, which is 80 centimeter, 90 centimeter long, all edible, right? And but still, I was told it's not an application, and so we thought about putting this to some good use. So we started incorporating cells. This work is done in collaboration with Professor Milica Radicic in the Institute of Biomaterials and Biomedical Engineering. She's an expert in culturing heart cells. So with heart cells, primary cells, into the sheets, and they're living, right? So we can incorporate them. We show that they have good viability throughout these sheets. And then we could, remembering the first aim, right, then we can co-localize different cell types and also keep record of what combination we used. So we could take advantage of this high degree of control and then just culture these sheets. And we see that they behave as they would behave, as they're expected to behave, but and assume tissue-like properties. So cells connect to each other, connect to a matrix, and so this is something that can be useful. One can also then make sheets that have different properties in different directions, right? So it can be stripes of green and green can be a different material than red. For instance, green can be stiffer than red, or green can have a different taste than red, right? So whatever you want to do. So you can program the properties of these materials, right? Depending on whether you're a chef or whether what kind of problem you want to solve. So you can tune stiffnesses by using such means. And then we can stack these sheets up. You may have noticed that I'm talking about sheets for a long time. even though we're talking about 3D. So one of the comments, or one of the first realizations has to do with, in the context of biology, the definition between, or the distinction between two-dimensional and three-dimensional comes from a perspective of biological cell, which was at the beginning a bit of a disappointment, but a biological cell is about 5 to 10 microns in size, so incorporating it controllably in a sheet that's 100 microns plus is already considered a three-dimensional environment. But now we can stack these sheets up, and we can roll them, so we can make sort of tissue duct tape, if you will, right? It's not available yet at Canadian Tire. I've checked, but at some point you could, have duct tape to fix your blood vessels. It could be perfusable, and we can make tubular structures that look like they want to become blood vessels. They're not yet blood vessels at this stage, right? Well, it's very high throughput, so we can make these tubular assemblies. At that time, we did it manually. So we are working with the burn center, largest burn center in Canada, in Sunnybrook. And this is Professor Jeschke's lab, who's running this place, has a large research laboratory. And so we're now creating sheets, continuous sheets that contain human cells. These are human fibroblasts. And that have immediately, not after some culture period only, they have immediately mechanical properties that make them handleable as grafts. And so they can be cultured in vitro. We have some early stage in vivo data that I don't want to show at this early stage. We're very excited about this because the scalability of this technology, the high throughput that this technique offers, being able to cover 1 square meter of sheet-like, skin-like material within something like 45 minutes is really unmet by any other bioprinting technology so far. And what we're going to do is build a scalable next-generation bioprinter with the burn unit in Sunnybrook, as well as a children's hospital in Cambodia that we think will help revolutionize, and I actually believe in this term, revolutionize burn care.
Get the latest Idea City news instantly. Follow us on Twitter.
I hope I have convinced you we have a very potent, very cool bioprinting technology made in Canada and Toronto here that offers continuous formation of tissue. And we have spatial control. The first generation system has been built. It's not very expensive. It's always difficult to believe the numbers of an academic, but I would put a price tag there of $1,000. We've built 3 so far. And it takes up to 45 minutes to create, to cover 1 square meter of area, which the application that we're interested in is severe burns. So that it would be corresponding to someone who has a 40% burn on an average male. The second generation printer will be available in fall, right? Much cooler, even cooler. These are all the individuals, a very creative bunch of students and research associates all the way from engineering to cell biology, stem cell biology disciplines. Lian Lang and Saeed, Ariana, Boyang, and Phoenix have done lots of the work. Mark is the surgeon, and Melissa is the biomaterials expert. And so if you want to support us, there's something, we don't ask for money, no, of course not. So there's one thing you can do. We'll apply for a Grand Challenges round this summer in July, end of July. And there's going to be a very cool video. And the only thing you have to do is you click this video. And what we're going to do is build a scalable next-generation bioprinter with the burn unit in Sunnybrook, as well as a children's hospital in Cambodia that we think will help revolutionize, and I actually believe in this term, revolutionize burn care ultimately. So with that, I close, and I thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity.
Tell us, has any of your skin actually been applied to a real burn victim at this point?
Well, so we have applied skin that contains human cells onto, first in vivo environments, which is not on patients, which is on nude mice. And next stage would be larger areas, and then will take us some time to get to really doing experiments in humans. And I'm not a clinician, so I'm also tend to be more conservative than my clinical counterpart. But we do have technology that is very, very scalable, and we are committed. So we have a team in town which we believe has all the areas covers all the areas of expertise that are necessary, and we are committed to translating this to really a clinical environment. Mark Geschke will make sure that this is his only motivation to be in, is to ultimately arrive at the technology that serves humans. Right? All right. Thank you.
Please come back and report to us the first time you've actually managed to do that. Hang on, we're going to take a picture.
Idea City is a place where ideas come face to face to inspire and give us hope. At this time, our planet needs it most. Idea City is a place. Everybody sing. Where ideas come face to face to inspire and give us hope. At this time, our planet needs it most. Idea City, gotta bring your ideas to Idea City, where ideas come face to face to inspire.